On this RV short, we're going to go over some of the ways of knowing what kind of refrigerator you have. There's different people that have got different models, and they used to use the two-way refrigerator, and then now they've gone to a 12 volt, and sometimes they're substituting now with a 110 version. So I'm going to show you a few ways of checking to see if you're not quite sure what kind of refrigerator you have. Okay, if you have a model that's before 21.5 model year, you're going to probably have these vents on the side. And you'll see the vents here and here. And that's because you have a two-way refrigerator. Two-way refrigerator is going to look a lot like this one here. This is a larger one that's on the FD model, but there's smaller versions. But all of them are going to have this control configuration right here. And what it's going to do is you're going to have this setup where you have an on-off button. You're going to have basically turn it on, and it goes into the auto range. When it's an auto, when you don't have power, it's going to run off your propane. As long as your propane is turned on and your gas is up to this system, it's going to light and run off the propane. As soon as you plug in, it's going to detect that, and it's going to go to gas. It's going to go straight to gas in the auto mode. Now you can bypass that auto mode and go straight to gas, and if for some reason it doesn't light, your check light's going to come on. So that's one way to know that you have this type setup. Also, another way, like I showed you outside, is you're going to have those vents outside, and inside you're going to have these fins. The other thing to remember is on this fin system, on this particular type, you're going to have this little plastic piece right here, and you slide that up, it's going to get colder. Slide it down, it's going to get warmer. So the LP 110 two-way refrigerator that used to come with the unit. The good thing about these units is there are very few moving parts. There's no compressor, there's no fans. It strictly runs by kind of a chemical system. I'll show you here on this diagram. As you look at this diagram, basically by heating the bottom, whether you're using propane or electric, you heat the bottom bulb here, and it causes that gas, it causes the liquid in that bottom there. It actually has ammonia, it has some hydrogen in it, and a few other things. And by heating up that bulb at the bottom, it goes up a tube and it vaporizes into a gas. And when it goes up to the top, as it comes into your refrigerator, that vapor is going to start cooling. And as it cools, that's what's going to cause your refrigeration inside. And as that cools, it's going to turn back into a liquid, and it's going to drip back down into the bottom of the tank, and it's going to turn back into a liquid again, and basically separate the two components, and then it's going to go back and do the cycle all over again. It's kind of complicated. It sounds complicated, but it's really good because there's hardly any moving parts. Now, the two drawbacks to this type system is the tubing that's run. It's very thin tubing, and it has different layers to that tubing, and it's very important that the camper stays level. It has to go in, and it has to rise on its own and then drop on its own, and if it's out of level, it'll cause a certain section to build up, and it won't work as well. So that's why it's very important for it to be level. Another thing is they call it an absorption system, so that's how it works, but it takes a long time. So if you're going to go camping, usually you want to turn this system on a good 6 hours before you go. Sometimes I'll do it the night before, just to get your refrigerator up to temperature. Once it's at temperature, it pretty much stays that way, but you want to do that with that type system. That's the one drawback. Okay, on the next type system, this is pretty much where they're going to now, and like I showed you before, these vents on the side, they don't have these vents anymore. They've done away with these vents because you don't need that vent anymore. And they've used this type refrigerator, and it's a 12 volt. Sometimes it'd be a Magic Chef, but that doesn't always tell you. If you got a Magic Chef, it doesn't mean it's always 12 volts, so I'll tell you how to find that out here in a minute. But if you have a 12 volt system, it's a compressor unit like you have in the house. It's a very good system. It does have more moving parts. It has a fan. It has a few other things that the other system I told you about doesn't have. but it's a pretty good system. The biggest problems that people have with these is that this is new to the industry, and they haven't figured a good way to bolt these things down. They kind of jut out a little bit, got to get in your way, and so I think they're still kind of working out the bugs in this system. I think it's the way to go. And also the other problem with this one is it does take down your batteries. If you don't have at least 2 batteries, one battery is barely going to get you through one day. And like say 2 batteries, even that's not going to work. And you've got to have good solar, and so it's taxing on that battery system. So you may have to go to lithium batteries. If that's some of the systems they've gone to now is the 110, and this is a system you really don't, unless you're plugging it every time you go camping, you do not want this system. And the problem is with this one too is you can't go even to your campground if it's an hour-and-a-half drive. Some people say, well, I can use the inverter, but the inverter is not going to run that long. If you run that inverter that run that 110, it's going to run down in a hurry. So that 110 refrigerator is something that's not going to be very useful to you unless you're going to pack everything in a cooler, take it with you, and then load it up once you get there. The advantages of the 12 volt and the 110 refrigerators is they do get cold pretty fast. You plug it in, and within about an hour or two, you're up to full temperature. You're down to whatever you need to be to. So, okay, how do you know when you have what system? Well, obviously, if you have the original system, you'll have the control panel like I told you. This is the 2-way system. You'll have this control panel. You'll have the vents on the outside. You'll have this coil on the inside. So this is your 2-way. And it's pretty easy to know that. You don't have to do much to it. You can look at it like this, and this is going to be your 2-way setup. Now, if you have a Magic Chef or one of these other bottles, and you want to know if it's a 110 or you want to know if it's a 12 volt, the way you can find that out is don't plug in your camper. You want to make sure that your switch here is in your on position. This is out in the front of the tongue. It's your battery setup. You want to make sure that's in the on position. And at this point, if your refrigerator can run at this point, then you know you're running off the 12 volt. And also make sure your inverter's turned off. Inverter's turned off, and now your refrigerator is running in this configuration, then you know you have a 12 volt system. So I hope that helps you in figuring out what kind of refrigerator you have in your unit. And it always helps to know what you have. Obviously, if you can get in there and find out what's hooked up to, then that's an easy way to know. It's either going to have a plug, or you can have a hardwired in for a 12 volt. So hope that helps you out, and we'll see you again on another one of these videos.